with us, and he is an award-winning and best-selling author and educator with a passion for exploring the mysteries of God, the universe, and the relationship with humanity. With two master's degrees and a doctorate in human development, he has spent 23 years as an adjunct professor in psychology at Keene University. His popular Angel in Training series highlights society's shift from organized religion to spirituality. Dr. Gruen's journey is documented in his books, including Looking for Angels, A Guide to Understanding and Connecting with Angels, A Spiritual Journey, and 12 Lessons. His latest work, Awkward Awakening, Finding Our Way Home, invites readers to awaken to their divine nature, their galactic heritage, and contact with the extraterrestrial life. He includes exercises and meditative techniques to help readers access higher dimensions and embrace connections with intelligent life beyond Earth. If you want to learn more about Dr. Gruen, you can find him at angeltraining.org, or you can follow him on Instagram and TikTok at Scott Gruen Author, and on Facebook, Angels in Training Series. Welcome, Dr. Gruen.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. Welcome. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your journey of becoming, because based on, you're a doctor of psychology, and yet here you are talking about angels and ETs. That had to
Yes.
be a story in there somewhere.
Yes. Yeah, my advisor for my doctoral work, his name, I always forget his name, but I'll remember it in a second. But he got me. He like said, you like to spend 1 foot in grounded psychology, but you want to step outside every now and then. I go, yes, absolutely. He goes, well, we'll do that in a way that will be allowed. I'm like, okay, thank you. But otherwise, my journey, I tell people, I came in hot. I came into this life hot. In a sense that I just from the earliest part of my life, I just was curious about God, about religion, about for what I could comprehend. Growing up, we all went to, we had to go to church every week, and we went to a Lutheran church, and so we kind of grew up in that environment. And then I always was fascinated by the sermons, even as a kid, even in sixth, seventh grade. That was my favorite part, and so that's why I really soaked in everything the pastor said and suggested to do, and that continued my whole life. And I went to a few different Protestant denominations throughout my life. And then in my 30s, I was an elder of the Presbyterian Church. I taught Sunday school for 12 years, junior high Sunday school, which was a challenge. And I did everything. I was the type, no matter what church, what religion, or Protestant denomination I was in, I did it to the T. And then my personal life just was falling apart on the outside, and it got to a point where it just kind of collapsed, and divorce and financial ruin, and I was like, what is going on? I did everything right. What happened? And that was a time, yeah, I guess you could say a dark night of the soul, a true awakening where I felt I had nothing to offer. And that's when the bottom started rising, and I started kind of elevating, but like when you're in the ocean, body surfing, and you're kind of swimming around, then you feel a swell kind of pick you up, and that's what really activated me at a deeper level. And after that, because I had kind of a sour taste in my mouth about organized religion, I just stuck with meditation. That's all. I just investigated different techniques and learned how to do it. I went to the Vipassana 10-day silent retreat twice, and which that was I had to say life changing, but it was kind of life changing. When you're, I don't know if you've experienced that, but 10 days, no talking, you can't even look at other people. You have to avert your gaze. and
That
you
goes a
spend
step further than what I'm used to.
yeah, oh yeah, and then and you're in the Dharma hall about 9 hours a day,
Wow.
sitting cross-legged on your prayer bench, meditating. And it's guided. You quiet your mind for the first 5 days. You learn how to do that, and then the second 5 days, there's like an internal scanning type of thing, and that technique supposedly is what the Buddha used, or uh, Siddhartha Gautama used to become enlightened. And
Hmm.
that same sequence carried through the 2,500 years to now, and they're all over the world, really, those centers. But that kind of got me, forced me out of myself, and more connected with the spiritual world in general, right? And so I felt that. I felt a glowing general warmth, being connected to the all that is, the one, the God. And then I wanted, after about 10 years, 10 or 15 years of that, I wanted something a little more specific. So I I was listening to a podcast called A Psychic's Story with Nicole Bigley, and every week she'd have a different type of spiritual practitioner, a numerologist, angel communicator, a medium, or and I got the thought is like, I'd like to write a book about angels. And so I asked her, and we ended up writing a book called Looking for Angels, A Guide to Understanding and Connecting with Angels. And that, you can imagine, I mean, that's when I really grew to make a connection with my spirit team, like my angelic team. And and the word is out there a lot, your spirit team. And it seems kind of like athletic, like, team and cheerleaders and stuff, but it's the best thing. The group of spiritual entities that you're most cognizant of in your life. And it could be past loved ones, it could be angels, it could be a deity, it could be ET as well. And so spending time developing a robust relationship with them, it was something that it was just amazing to me, and to see how my sensitivities kind of opened up. Um, I took a divine mediumship course with Carol Swift Jones. She's on the East Coast, but she does it remotely, and 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 we started learning how to be clairvoyant, how to work with people, how to get that set up, and trust in your own abilities to do that. So that was another major step in saying that, in experiencing the spirit world that I've been chasing my whole life. And then in and around that, I think because I was open to the spirit world, and receiving information and communication and trusting that intuition, I was guided to our extraterrestrial neighbors. This one fellow, Marty Rawson, who wrote a chapter in this book, my latest book, Awkward Awakening, about how to connect with them. I met him a few times, and he was so wonderful in meeting me where I was at, like skeptical, a little bit afraid, and he was talking like, hey, I've been there. I know it. I speak with them on a regular basis. I know what's going on far beyond my belief. Talking and having communication with some of the governing bodies of our extraterrestrial neighbors. Um, and it just blows my mind. But he was just so comfortable talking about that, and them, and what they're saying, and this and that, that I felt, I just as I did with my angel spirit team, and reconnecting with Jesus after a long time being away from that. Kind of being guided to make a connection myself, and try it, baby steps, to investigate that, and again unfolding in my life. And then I got now this is like this is my entire life in 5 minutes. I'm going over here, but the big catalyst for this book and the message of awakening, and that's what I think. I wrote a book, but it's not the book. It's a message to the planet right now, among thousands of others who are being moved to speak about what's going on in the world and where we're headed. And I had a Akashic record reading with Melissa Sparrow, a woman who's pretty sensitive and powerful, intuitive. And long story short, she was just saying they're giving you a scroll, and that scroll is a book that you are going to write, and you're going to take the next year learning about these things that you're going to write about, because it's time. And so the two key themes that kept coming to me was that people are waking up to their own divinity, to our own multidimensional nature, right? Which obviously no religion talks about this, and is it because a power grab, control? Is it just the fact that the religious leaders are just so enthusiastic about their own truth that they want to protect it? So either way, moving away from that idea of separation between us and our divine nature, and then with that, a time of tumultuous times on planet Earth. And when you look at it, there's so many traditions. The Hindus talked about that with the yugas, coming out of the Kali Yuga into the Sati Yuga. We have 14,000 years of positive spiritual evolution, connection. We're moving into that now. The Mayan calendar, when it ended in 2020, everybody said the Mayan calendar ended. You didn't really hear much, but that was the 13th back turn that ended. The 14th back turn started then. And guess what? The 14th back turn characteristics are spiritual awakening, oneness, unity, same types of thing. And a time of tumultuous living, a time of breaking down old structures, old habits, old customs, and a time of unrest as we move into that. And then the same thing, that the Hopi Indians, the Great Purification predictions, it's all happening. And then astrology, not that I'm like 100% into astrology as far as following it, but you look at the whole Pluto into Aquarius thing, and then you look back and go, okay, fine, things are happening. But then you look at, well, last time it happened, 250 years ago, what happened? Well, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, and then you look 250 years back from that. You have the church, the English King Henry VIII, I guess, broke from the Catholic Church to form the English Church. I know there's a better word for that, but the Church of England, the printing press, Copernicus, all those every things like that. So to me, it's just like overwhelming to say, to look and say, yes, this is what's going on. It's happening. And that as bad as it looks, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It has to happen. It has to happen. And
we don't have a choice.
Yeah, we don't have a choice. That's true.
So, and I've been saying that for a while, and you said a lot of things that my mind just went 100 miles an hour on so many different tangents. What you said, because I've learned about that. And it actually really started in 2012, because we actually shifted a timeline in 2012 on December 21st, 2012, I think it was. I'll never forget the day, because it was 5 o'clock, and in Colorado, 5 o'clock is pitch black. And it looked like it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
And the sun had gotten so big and bright. It still is, because we went up a level in a dimensional shift.
Yeah.
And nobody saw it. And I'm like, am I the only one that sees things? Because it was so prevalent to me that it wasn't the same sun. We weren't
Mm,
in the same timeline, but it was
mm,
also at that point that the powers to be in our governments, let's just put it that way, also realized because they put a great big giant computer together and did all these different scenarios, and they all come to this time where
mm,
it's only one outcome,
mm,
and they're losing, and they
mm.
lost, and they're
Wow.
trying to maintain control, and they
Yes.
can't because this is the year that it starts.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, all the institutions are going to break.
Mm,
They're
mhm,
designed to break. They have to break for the new. The new is already in place. That's what people don't understand because
mm,
that's part of what I did is I created the grid structure. I did all the work for the planet to help her elevate, take us up, get that vibrational frequency risen to rise so we can rise. So I've
mm.
done a lot of the preparation work and everybody there's other people that have done things and we've all done it just like you, Scott. We've all done the prep work that we needed to do. My understanding, what I was told, is that what's coming, those that are like us, the older generation, we've been through this before and we're here to guide the younger generation because they don't
Mm,
know what to
mm.
expect.
Yeah.
Because look at they're tied up on their phones. They're not conscious. They're not really present. You know, there's young kids that don't even think they should have to work, that the government and everybody else should just pay for them to be alive.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
but when we go into this next level of vibrational frequency, guess what? They're going to be getting off their butt because nobody's going to carry dead weight.
Mm. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and if there's a peer pressure system, which I'm sure there will be something, that we all rise together.
Mhm.
And there's enough tools out there. There's enough of us out there. I call us the way showers now because we know the way. We learned the way. We
Mm.
had to bring back what we knew.
Yes.
We
Yes.
brought it in. So, yes, I always had a gaggle of spirits around me, and I remember the one time and they talk 100 miles an hour in my head. You know, I never knew who talked because I didn't care who was talking, they were just talking.
Mm. Mm.
And I remember I went to a psychic once, and I'm watching her go like this.
Yeah.
"Oh my god, you put up with this every day?" I said, "Yes." I
Yeah.
mean, she was like, "How do you do it?" I said, "It's normal." And when they stepped back, I'll never forget when they stepped back, I went into depression because
Oh,
now I
yeah.
felt alone and isolated. Now I
Mm.
could feel them. They were just
Yeah.
right behind me, just out of my auric field,
Mm.
but they said, "You have to learn to stand on your own 2 feet.
Oh.
We haven't left you, but you need to, like, own this."
Yeah.
I mean, we may be giving it to you, but it's still your information. It's how you're interpreting the information. That was a hard lesson to learn because, you know, when you're depending on the voices,
Mm.
I mean, they talk to me still, but not sometimes they're like 100 miles an hour. Sometimes it's dead silence, like, "Oh, are we playing that game again today? Okay, fine." And I don't get upset with it because what do? I just trust me now.
Yeah.
You know, I
Well,
don't need them, but when I really need an answer, they're right there to give it to me.
it's interesting you say that because when Nicole and I were writing the book on angels, a few times she got a clear message from the angelic realm saying, someday you're not going to need us. You're going to be so connected and we'll be really happy because she's like, oh no. You know, but I get that and I think I remember that that they're helping us to get out in our own so we can fly on our own in that sense.
And the great thing about the angels is people think, well, no, God doesn't love me. God's not helping. Nobody's talking to me. And it's like, well, are you asking for their help? Because they can't help unless you ask.
Yes, I
I
know.
mean, that is the main thing. That was probably
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that I heard from them is like, if you don't ask, we can't step forward because we have this. They are governed by
Yeah.
free will and free choice. They
Yeah.
cannot step over that.
I know, and it's like that's what I say. Over time, like it's a real thing. It's a real thing that you have to. They won't do anything without your permission and your asking. And it
Right.
just seems so counterintuitive. But again, it's our own sovereignty. That they're supporting. by saying, by not interfering. But yeah, well, that's great. That it's always good to hear, similar. Not that I don't, but it's good to hear from hosts that you're on the same journey. You get it, and you're part of the voices and the light that is helping this whole thing move on.
Right. And, and when you come back into alignment with yourself, when you work through so much of your own limiting beliefs and realizing they're not truths and realize that you've been lied to most of your life,
Mm,
and you have to find that. You have to find that within yourself. And that's some pretty hard, ugly work to do sometimes, to go deep inside, because I was as flattened as you were when I wrote my books. I
mm,
I I was like, I just wanted to be a better person. Those were the only words I said to myself, is I want to be better, because I was so tired of being like so far away from outside and inside. And I was so tired of being angry and not understanding why I had such a pathetic life, in my opinion. Now,
mm,
most people didn't think that, but I thought that. I don't care how
mm,
accomplished I was, how many awards I won. To me, my life was pathetic because I didn't feel good on the inside.
mm. Yeah.
And when I faced all of that, and it was hard. I mean, because it was like I had to go so deep and undig myself from all this crap that was put on top of me,
Mm,
that I almost began to think that there was no light there at all.
mm,
And
mm.
then I found it. And when I
Yeah.
found it, that was the end. And then it was the matter of rebuilding, because now it's like, well, who the hell am I?
Mm, yeah.
What do I
Yeah.
think? How do I feel? What do I even believe in? Because, when you start seeing the lie, what is the truth? And it's not
Mm,
their truth, it's what is your truth. And then
right.
it became easier to create the boundaries. And I have been preaching this for the last 3 years on my shows, because that's the truth.
Mm,
Because when you know who you are, when you understand you, then boundaries are easy. No is easy.
mm, mhm,
Saying, I don't deserve to be treated like dog crap anymore. There's the door, get out.
mm, mm,
Those things were really important to do. And I say that a lot for women, because women are the caretakers and we carry
mm,
so much more deeper burden of, what would they think? This is my job, and mom taught me this, and blah, 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 blah crap.
mm,
But the whole point is that we still have to do that. We have to find our truth and live within that truth, and whatever that
right.
is. And then we become more tolerant to our neighbors,
The
because that's
again.
because you understand, they're in pain. If they're acting out, they're in pain. What did
Mm,
you do? You acted out when you were hurting.
mhm,
I mean, we're just petulant little children. When we don't understand or we don't know what's going on and we're having to fight it, and 10,000 Facebook friends is not friendship.
right,
They're just
right.
numbers in an app, that they're not there to help you. I mean, if you got a gun to your head, do you think one of those people are going to come out and say, "Oh, please don't do that"? They're probably going
Mm,
to root it on and video it.
yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
that's how I feel
Well,
sometimes
it's
about this
interesting.
younger generation and what they're doing. It's like, you don't sit there and watch somebody suffer, you go and help them.
Yeah,
I mean, what if it was you?
right. You would want,
And
obviously.
I think that's the main thing, is really getting this younger generation. And I know that there's awake kids that are 20, 30, 40 years old, but what they don't have is wisdom. They may have
Mm,
knowledge, but they don't have the wisdom yet. And
mm,
there's something to be said about wisdom, because you and I walked it,
mm,
we lived it, and how we speak, it's from our personal knowledge, not
right,
a
right.
book I read and
Mm,
regurgitating, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And I'm not diminishing the younger generation that are waking up, because I can look at them and see that they're still struggling.
Mm,
And they're still
mm,
trying to find their way, but they do know more than some, and they're at that generation where they can reach those people maybe a little bit better than I can.
yeah. And I mean, it's interesting you brought up that subject, because a very strong theme that was given to me for this book was that it goes back to my psychological roots, is the shadow self,
Yes.
and it came very strongly through that, until you accept every aspect of yourself and not get rid of it, not get rid of it. It's not like saying no. You have, again, the shadow self is, Freud and Jung would always say that the things about yourself that you don't like, that you're not proud of, the base desires, the secret addictions, all that stuff, and all the ugliness, that's the shadow self. And the way to conquer that is not to shove it out like, no, I won't do that. I won't go there again. I won't do. No, you embrace it. And the exercises that I was given was to picture yourself like standing in front of a mirror and picture yourself as being very ugly, and then embrace that. Look into your own eyes in the mirror reflection.
That
And
is so hard.
yes, but that is the coherence that you're
Yes,
kind
it
of
is.
talking about. It's the heart coherence, the self-love, the seeing beyond the surface things. That once you do that, then you can easily do that with others,
Yes.
easily.
Yep.
And then that also happens to be the trigger that our ET neighbors are looking for us as a global community to
Really?
get to a certain level. It raises all our vibrations, right? Self-love. Once we get to that level, that is when the first contact will be made. And by the first contact means the open contact, the ships coming down, the maybe not the governments, and I don't think it's going to happen through that, but either way, some visible thing, and then interaction agreements and commerce and knowledge exchange and all that. That's when that's going to happen, because they've been keeping away for a lot of different reasons, but the biggest one's that it's not safe for them,
Right. Because
to
we like to kill
interact with
things.
us.
We
What's
kill
that?
things.
Yeah,
We kill
yeah.
things
I always
because
go
we don't
back.
understand it. So we let our fear kill things. I
Yes,
mean,
yes,
we
yeah.
got to stop with that one.
One of my movies that I remember seeing, and I think it's black and white. I think it was done in like '59 or something like that, and it's called "It Came from Outer Space."
Yep.
And these people, military people, oh, they see a flying saucer. What do? They drive up with a jeep with a machine gun on it. And so, that's the type of people we are. And Bashar, who is Daryl Anka, who is pretty prevalent on social media, he channels um, uh, Daryl Anka channels Bashar, which is a assassinate non-physical being, out by Orion. And one of the statements he said was, uh, somebody asked, like, why aren't you here? Why can't we see you? And he says, why? He says, we're joking a little bit, but why would we want to land our ships in an insane asylum where all the inmates have guns? I just love that so much. But in any case, that's what they're waiting for. And once we get to that level where we can be trusted to enter into intergalactic activity, that's when it's all going to happen. Now, some people say that's not too far away. Some people say that's, maybe not in our lifetime. But you have to
No, I think it's
remember,
going to be within the next couple of years.
well, yeah, because and the reason why I've kind of been siding to that more is that, the world governments only make up a small percentage of the world population. It's the rest of us, that are evolving and raising our vibrations, meditating more. There's numbers on that, and that's what gives me hope to say, you know what, maybe this time of, destruction, in a sense, reworking our systems and starting anew, maybe that can, that's how it's all going to trigger. But yeah, so that was the other message of this book, is that, it's right there, it's right there, and don't be afraid. And I go into a lot of different things why, but um, um, sorry, my dog's barking in the background. Um, that, kind of ET 101, for people to say, like, it's okay. A couple of friends of mine, they asked me about what I'm writing, and I told them that, and they go, you know what? And I didn't prompt them, but they go, you know what? I never really knew about it, but you're saying it's okay, and so it's okay. Like, it was the thing in their head to click it over to say, I feared something for no reason, And if there's people out there that are actively interacting with them and have been for decades, and blah blah blah, it's going to be okay. So alleviating that fear, I think, is a big thing.
Well, and I think also too, what I keep telling the people, there's more of us than them.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
more of us. And when we realize that the power's in the numbers, and I'm not saying a massive government overthrow or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's more of us than them, that once we wake up enough that they can't control us through fear and manipulation and guilt and whatever else they
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
once they can't do that anymore, they lost all their power.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
And then that means the people, by the grace of God, will realize, they will see the truth, and they will start, if we keep a governing body like this, then we will start bringing in more enlightened people that are for the people,
Right.
instead of for their agendas. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, because I keep hearing things going on in the news. And I told my partner, I said, next time I ever ask you about anything, don't ever tell me, because he was telling me about what was going on with in Minnesota. So I got it. And I said, you know what? And what did those people in the state of Minnesota do? What are the people in California doing? What are the people in any state doing if they don't like what their governor is doing to the state? Or if the government's putting people in their state that we don't want, just because that's what they decided.
Yeah.
Not what those people coming into the country wanted, but you know what I mean? So what are we, the people, doing to within our state? Because that's where we have the most control. We don't have control in feds, the federal government. We have control within our communities, within our state. And if we don't like those people, then vote them out.
Yes. Yes.
And my answer was always, you know how we get rid of all these people? You don't go up and you don't go to and elect them. You just let it for 4 years. You just let them, don't replace the seats. Let them all go and then start over. Because the younger generation that I've spoken with through politics in Colorado, they just want to go in, make a few things, and leave. They don't want to be lifers. They just have something. And I voted for them because they were young, they were vibrant, they had great ideas. I know politics could destroy them, because politics does that to people. Based on what I have experienced in my life. This is my experience. It's not a judgment. But they don't get in because the old timers are in there. So what started happening when this younger generation wanted to come in? The old timers, the lifers, are saying, no, we're not going to put an end to term limits. They're sitting there laughing on the floor. And it's like, guess what? That day is coming to an end. That day will come to an end, because it's not about your agenda. It's about the people. What do the people need? We don't need big government.
Right. Now, I go back and forth on this, like how active to be, in addressing the things that are going on that are hurtful right now, and then maybe moving into the next phase, the new earth type of thing. Like, how much am I going to get involved? Because what I don't like is when I get very, very angry, and I know that messes me up, and at the same time, evil men succeed when good men do nothing, so I go back and forth on that a little bit. And then the only thing that I do, what I say, like, guide me, if there's if I need to do something, please guide me. Otherwise, I'm gonna work on myself and raise my own vibration, because that does impact the earth, obviously extremely fractional, but that's the only thing that's how my approach has been. But so some people will do the same thing. They'll say, like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't want to know about that. Like,
right. And that's why I pray for the earth. I pray to put love around our leaders. I don't care what they are, who they are, and I don't like a lot of them, trust me, but I still put love around them, because they're here for a plan. They're doing what they're here to do for us,
That's
so I'm learning to take that to that next level, because I'm not going to throw them hate, because that's what they use. You throw them love, they don't know what to do with it.
Well, and not only that,
and then spirit uses that energy that I'm putting with, gratitude or love, that helps to elevate the whole planet. So,
right.
so it's not just like a laser, one little laser beam. I mean, what if you got all these little laser beams that come to become a beacon of light?
Yeah. Well, here's the other kicker thing is that sometimes, certainly in the biblical texts, you have God, in that perspective in those texts, using evil people to do his work, his good work. King Nebuchadnezzar, certainly in Christianity, Pilate, Herod, and Judas, they're horrible people. But if they didn't do what they did, then Christianity wouldn't have had such a extensive reach.
But they are the
Um,
greatest of angels to do that, to take that type of
oh,
that
job.
on, because
Yeah,
it's hate. I mean, it's something they're going to live with.
yeah,
It's going to be towards them their whole life until we evolve. So to me,
yeah.
they are the greatest of angels taking that on.
Well, now that's a very insightful comment. Yeah, yeah. So sometimes when I look at all this stuff and I go, oh my God, but at the same time I know cognitively that these things must happen. So like, don't get so angry and try to stop them, because in that sense, I think there is a human desire to protect and love and all that they can't just put aside. But for the things that we can, like the Serenity Prayer, control the things I can, accept the things I can't. Um, but know that this whole thing is fueled by something else, maybe, that is moving us into our next phase. And so that helps me sometimes to say, yep, it's got to be destroyed. It's got to be taken down, in order to start
And
moving.
it's not going to look like what we think it is, because we are such drama queens in our head, because our brain's designed to do that, create
Mm,
stories. And when we look at that, we just have to realize that when 2020 came around and we were in COVID, I remember knowing this was coming when I was like 16, 17, 18 years old. I didn't know what it looked like. I knew it was
mm,
coming, but the minute it hit, I knew it. And I
mm,
screamed at God, because I said I was not going to be part of this. And here I am. And I was angry,
mm,
but it wasn't what it appeared to be, because once I got through my own personal crap about it,
mm,
and I looked at how the earth was healing because nobody was out of their houses. Like, look at California. The
mm,
sun came out because there was no more smog. I mean, when you think about what
yeah,
happened to the earth and how divine that was. Now,
yeah, yeah.
I'm an isolist anyways, and I don't have a problem staying at home and all that. That didn't bother me until you told me I had to. But
Oh,
I was also out there working, because I was one of those, essential workers or whatever they called it.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But the whole point is I just remember knowing that. So this so-called collapse of what might be coming doesn't mean it's going to look like what you think it will in your mind, because in my mind of what happened in 2020 was not what happened.
Yeah,
There
right,
was a lot
right,
of good.
right.
Now, did it affect me? Yes. When we finally came out of it, I remember, because something happened in my brain, because I think there was some sort of mind control going, and I just had to work myself get out of this, get out of this, get out of this. And I forced myself back into like
Mm,
my body, so to speak, into
mhm.
working into who I was
Oh, yeah, yeah,
before
I get that.
COVID. You know
Yes,
what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
Because there was
absolutely.
something that happened in my brain and even though I was working, there was still something that happened in my brain,
Mm,
and I
mm,
got out of it. And I came out with a fury, and a lot of people I know, when I came out is when I started podcasting, and other people were saying the same thing. It was like there was a mind shift that happened for a lot of people. And then
mm,
you look at 2020, what does that tell you? Vision. What are you seeing? How clearly
mm,
are you seeing? To me, the
mm,
agenda became very, very strong.
mm. And what I say to people now, like, well, this is all going to pass. Like, we get it. We get what you're saying. And so when things get back to normal, I'm like, well, wait a minute.
There's
You
nothing
can't,
normal
you,
about after 2020.
what, you
Nothing's
can't say,
normal.
yeah. Don't think that things are going to go back to the way they were and the other political
Mm.
party will take a charge and fix everything. Like, you don't know. Who knows? We may not even have midterm elections. May not.
You don't know. We
I
don't
know.
know.
That's
We
how,
don't know.
yeah. And so that's, then, talk about sticking somebody with a, poking, like, whoa, wait a minute, that's huge. I said, we have to be prepared for that.
Because we don't know. And I think,
Yeah.
but see, the power is still in the people. And that's the whole thing, is that whatever's happening around me does not mean it has, what I see out in the world, that's not my world. My world is what I'm creating in here and what's around me. And to me, I think if everybody said, this is what I want in my life, I want love, I want, money for my family, to protect my kids, take them to good schools, whatever their dream is, you focus on you and your family. Whatever's happening out here is out there. You focus on your personal community.
Now, would you say, because I've been mulling around this whole idea for a while, is that how we experience a shifting of timelines?
Yes.
Just by our focus, right?
Yes.
The more we
Oh yeah,
right?
you definitely do. You will actually literally shift timelines. And I was talking to a woman, and I was telling her, and I actually shifted a timeline when I was awake. And my partner was with me, and it was the same thing. We shifted a timeline. So yes, you can shift out of the chaos that's coming.
Yeah.
Because time is simultaneous, and there's many different dimensions within the timelines. So the timeline I was on, I said, I don't want to be here. And I was doing a lot of forgiveness work on a lot of things, a lot of people, a lot of everything. It was like blowing my mind away. And I shifted a timeline. Because I released the heavy burden I was still carrying. So if you're carrying anger, frustration, revenge,
right,
that type of thing, you're going to stay in the chaos, but you start forgiving those that harmed you, because it's not about forgiving them as much as it's about healing you. They don't, because you got to get them out of up here.
Right.
What you're doing up here is what keeps you trapped. So you start doing that love thing and forgiveness and being a different person and operating differently and facing whatever your personal demons are. You will elevate to the higher levels, to where this chaos will not appear to be what chaos is. Now, I also believe, and I'm being told, that spirit, those of us who are here, some of us that are the way showers, will still remain within the chaos. Not that we'll be affected by it, but we will be here during it to help get those people up and elevated. I already know that's me. I am the last. I'm going to be one of the last to go, but I'm going to be the first to land on that new dimensional frequency with those that are in the plane with me, so to speak.
I just got like a confirmation of that, like, just not a confirmation, but like, like that's it. That's, I could see that for myself as well. Like, you're going to be there helping. And so here's a question. What happens? I have an answer, but we'll see what you think. What happens to the people who are not bought into this? They're still polarized, greed, evil.
They stay.
Whatever.
Two Earths, people. There's two Earths.
Okay, but in our perspective, where do they go? They don't disappear.
They will disappear from you. And I actually had an experience of that last year, where I just disappeared. And I saw it. And it was me personally. Nobody else was doing it. It was like, wow, I just like got disappeared. So it's like you go to sleep one night and say you're got a spouse and you're like, it's a domestic violence situation. Let's just go down ugly. You go to bed, you wake up, and he just happens to not be there the next morning. But see, you're already gone.
Right.
That you don't even know that he's gone.
Got it. Right.
It's that kind of a thing, because we're just going to shift out. They're just going to disappear. Like when you are no longer in alignment, you shift.
Yeah. Okay.
So those that choose to stay in the chaotic craziness of this world because they want to play for a while longer, they get to. They will be removed from this earth, because this earth is where we're staying. They will be replaced to the new earth that they've already found. It's already been found. They will move over there, so that chaos moves there. And those that are in the vibration to want to grow and evolve and learn and do things differently, that's the new earth.
Yeah,
and we're all going to be at different stages.
Yeah. The woman, she's been kind of more and more popular on social media, Elizabeth April. She's big on remote viewing, a whole different. Anyway, she's quite sensitive, and she provided an explanation. She said, "It's like if you go to a city and you go to visit a city, and you hear that there are parts of the city that are they're violent. They're you don't really want to go. It's not safe. You don't go there. So you go to the other places. You go to you go to the shows and the restaurants, and you have fun." She said it's kind of like that. You're shifting your focus away, and what's happening in these unsafe areas, like you don't even know. And so it's kind of like that, which I kind of think the one kind of joke thing was right around the election. I was listening. I think it was a TikTok thing. This woman, this young girl said, "Well, I didn't like the results of the election, so I'm just going to shift my timeline out of here." I'm like, "Well, what does that mean? Like, you're just going to beam out like Star Trek?" I mean, I don't know, but
I don't
it's
think we can quite shift our timeline like that. We're
right.
still
But
there, but we're still in a different
yes,
dimensional frequency within the timeline.
yeah. I think that
You're
makes
just jumping a ladder, you're going up another step of the rung, but the higher you go, the less you're affected or have that darkness, so to speak, around
yes,
you.
right. So with that in mind, I mean, do we? I guess that's you kind of saying that people who are called to or able to can kind of keep a foot in that old earth and the new earth at the same time. But if you can't, you can't, and you can
I'm
shift
learning how
that.
to do that. Being in
Yeah,
2 worlds at the same time, it's not an easy place to be, but I'm
yeah,
learning how to do it. That's part of my job. I've known it my whole life. I'm the doorway.
yeah. Yeah, I get that. And somebody asked me once, and I said that was my role, and I didn't even know why I said it, but I said I feel comfortable being in the dark with the light. Like anybody else coming over, anybody else come on over, and so I kind of feel I have that as well. And I'm sure there's many others that will be in that, but certainly it's not an easy thing to do.
No, and it's I mean, it's a huge sacrifice because
Friends,
because you've
family,
gotta keep your body healthy, because 'cause you're dealing with a very with diversity of because the higher I go, the lower I have to go inside of me too.
yeah.
I mean, it's like it's typical yin yang. And people
Mm,
don't understand that. It's like, well, you've got all this knowledge. It's like, yeah, but I look at how much deep, ugly work I had to do to get this knowledge.
yeah.
This doesn't come, if there was a magic wand, I would have found it, people. I searched my whole life
Yeah.
for that magic wand because I did not want to go inside.
Mm,
But
yeah.
that's your freedom.
Yeah.
That's where your freedom lies.
It's something
So
happened to me. I haven't really shared it with anyone other than my wife, but I did a podcast and we're talking about these same types of things. And a schoolmate of mine back in high school, like many years ago, he went into academia, but in the Catholic Church tradition, and not Loyola, but he was in that, heavy into academia in the Catholic Protestant or Catholic theologies. And so he heard one of my podcasts, and then he sent me out of the blue. I hadn't talked to him in decades. He left a comment, "Scott, have you gone crazy?" Or, yeah, no, Scott, have you lost your mind? The next is that you're going to lose your soul. And that just
whoa,
happened like 3 days ago. And for some
wow.
reason, it really kind of hit me, and I'm kind of getting over it. But for some reason, like, yeah, that's the part of the sacrifices. My family isn't totally into what I do, but they supported, and when I talk about, but they're supportive and stuff. But other people, like, no, there's a family member is like, no. The minute he heard the word psychic, no, out. It's Jesus. So yeah, so those are the things that I think we have to be cognizant of and prepared for, and always choose the light and your path and your plan, that we're here for.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Mhm.
Well, we've hit our time. I mean, I could have keep going on this
I
topic
know.
for a long time, Scott. This was fun. This is a
Yeah,
totally different rabbit hole I went down, a little different than what I expected, but it's still a good one because it still comes down to that we have to the people have to wake up and they have to take their power back. And if they don't like what they see, then do the work on the inside and
Yeah.
let's banding together as light beings and become the beacon of light. So we find each other and support each other and elevate to that next level. So maybe this change
Mm.
won't be as drastic if more of us are awake and supporting each other. So
Yes.
how can
Yes.
people get a hold of you? I know I said it in the beginning, but go ahead and say it again. And
Yeah, my website is angelandtraining.org, and that has my background in books I've written. And my latest book is awkwardawakening.com, available on Amazon. And it's a primer on the awakening process that we're all going through right now. So,
well, I want to thank you so much, Scott, for being on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation. I found it enlightening and
same with
stimulating,
me.
and I'm all fired up again because, we need to stick together because sometimes it's really hard for us
Mm.
as solo beings to keep going. So when I meet people like you and we have these conversations, it's like I can get my sword of Michael out again and start slewing waving it
Yes.
around again, wielding the sword
Yes, I
because,
feel the same
I'm
way.
not alone. And,
Right.
so there's the power in numbers.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and if you enjoyed the show, I would appreciate if you like or subscribe to it. If you want to reach out to me or Scott, please feel free to do so. The contact information will be in the show notes. And from my heart to yours, I hope you all have a fabulous week. And that will be next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Great. Thank you.